Have you ever wondered how booktubers choose the books that they read? Well, I'm not sure how they do, but I can tell you how I choose the books that I read. It's a combination of a bunch of different sources. Some may be no surprise and maybe some are. I don't know. So let's get into it right now. So I guess one of the first ways is word of mouth. You know, something you hear about, maybe you see it in social media, other booktubers are talking about it. A lot of times if there's booktubers I really like and they really love a book, I will add that to my TBR and then possibly read it. Also too, along the lines of like word of mouth, there's several authors that I follow on Instagram and social media, and if they post about a book that they liked by another author, I'm very apt to also pick that up to read as well. For instance, Josh Malerman had posted on his Instagram a picture of the book We Spread by Ian Reid, so I picked that up to read. There's also certain, I would say, influencers that I take stock in their word, like Mother Horror. She has like a million projects that she is in and behind. Her and Ashley Sawyer, they run Nightworms, which is a monthly horror book box, and then she also does stuff with multiple different publishers. She just always has some really great horror books that she's recommending, and I honestly really trust her taste. And also, some of my favorite books recently have been from the My Dark Library series that she curates through Cemetery Gates Media, which are awesome. Also, what I was talking about earlier with like the collective, like if it keeps being mentioned on booktube or I see it on Instagram or on social media, like that's why I read Verity by Colleen Hoover, and that's definitely not a book that I would normally read under any circumstances, but like curiosity got the best of me, so I stood up and read it, and I thought it was okay. I did not love or hate it. Other ways I choose is like when I'm out and about, whether I go to the library or the bookstore. So library, I will just go to the new fiction area and just browse, and if something jumps out at me, I will grab it and bring it home. Sometimes it ends up being DNF'd because I chose wrongly, but sometimes they end up being really good. Also recently, I've kind of made friends with one of the local librarians, so I've been talking to her about stuff. She recommended a book to me that I plan to read soon, another Darcy Coates book, The Hunted. I think it's called The Hunted. I got the name wrong last time I said it. It's either The Hunt or The Hunted. And then if I go to the bookstore, you know the cards that they put out that are like the people that work there that suggest that they like this book a lot? Like I take stock in that. I've definitely bought books based off of those little cards that they have. Just the little things like that, it piques my interest. I'm like, all right, this person liked it and they work in a bookstore, so I imagine they probably like books quite a bit, so that will pique my interest and inspire me to buy that book. But yeah, sometimes too, just being in a bookstore, letting the titles and the covers choose me. Also, good end caps. A good end cap I can be a sucker for, and those tables too, you know, gotta see what's on them. And also, if I've heard of any of the books that I see on there, I might be more apt to pick it up too. It's a collaboration of things going on. I also love going to indie bookstores because I feel like most times when I've gone to indie bookstores, I've gotten into conversations with the booksellers there, and they've recommended fantastic books based off of like what I've told them that I kind of like, and that's pretty awesome. I don't really experience that when going to like Barnes and Noble, and I'm sure that exists to a certain point, but at the smaller bookstores, you know, it's a lot smaller, they have the time to do it. I greatly appreciate that. So yeah, I've definitely bought books based off of recommendations from indie booksellers. I also am signed up for several newsletters from different indie presses, different authors, like Ross Jeffrey has a newsletter, and he always has like an interesting collection of books that he'll like recommend and talk about. I have chosen some books from there before as well. He has a YouTube channel as well. I don't know the last time he put out a video, but he's got some books coming out, and he's got one coming out in, I think it's May, called The Devil's Pocketbook, that I'm pretty excited for. You know, and I also look on the indie websites too to see what's coming out. And then also booktube events like Asian Readathon, Nonfiction November, Garb August. Those obviously inspire me to go out and find books in those categories to read. You know, stuff that maybe I wouldn't normally go and get. Like I'm not one to probably go grab trashy books normally, but you know, for events such as Garb August, and we have our February weekend of trashy books coming up, and I got a book that I think is trashy. I think it's trashy. It's like a weird vampire book and the cover looks kind of trashy, so I think that's what I'm gonna read for that. But yeah, that's another thing in another way. It's like a lot of like word of mouth, stuff on social media, little cards at the bookstores, just hearing about it, and then also me just using like weird magic and trying to pick stuff out. by liking a cover or title. One other thing I also do is I always see what the book of the month books are, because my library gets all of them, and I usually pick at least one to read, and they've all been really fantastic, the ones that I've chosen. Usually I choose the ones that are more like horror, thriller-ish, but not always. Like Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow was one of them. Thistlefoot was one of them. The Devil Takes You Home was one of them. They've just really, I mean, out of most of the book boxes, they really seem to choose some really great books. I can't really say for the other book boxes that exist out there, but Book of the Month really does have some great books. So that is some of the ways that I choose my books. I'm curious to hear, how do you guys choose what you're going to read? Do you like booktuber recommendations? Do you do some of the same stuff I do? I'm very curious to like hear how people choose what they're reading for the month, or for just, you know, their next current read and whatnot. So let me know down in the comments. And if you had fun hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.